It seems Caitlin Clark has gone from changing the league to altering her own front office. Rumors are swirling that Clark quietly urged Indiana's management to retain Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull, two of her closest allies, at any cost. And the wild part, it was successful. A question for you. Do you feel Clark is right to wield her power this way, or is she crossing the line for a player?
All right, let's get some things in order. Who is ESPN predicting to leave the Indiana Fever in free agency? Who are they predicting to leave all of these teams? This is the most free agents in WNBA history. Everybody is trying to cash in on this new CBA. We got to figure out who is about to be leaving Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, along with some of the other teams. I think there are a few players that are going to be demanding.
Hell yeah. For weeks, the word was Lexie Hull was finished in Indiana. We saw emotional goodbyes, farewell posts, and talk that she had already started packing for another city. Well, it turns out that whole story was complete fiction, built on some half quotes and pure clickbait, because we now know Caitlin Clark intervened and ensured Lexie Hull and Sophie Cunningham were staying put. Numerous sources claim Clark went to Fever management and was explicit that these two are off limits. She desires their return, she desires stability, and she desires the people she trusts on the court with her for the next season. And you know what? She has a point. Let's be frank, Clark's second year is do or die for this organization. The Fever rose from league doormats to a semi-final team mostly because of her influence, and the rapport she established with players like Lexie and Sophie, you can witness it on the court. Each time Clark drives and kicks to Hull for a corner three, or Sophie hits the glass for a putback, it looks effortless. That is a chemistry you cannot purchase with free agency money. But the press spun it into a drama because Caitlin Clark saves friends from being cut, sells more than Fever exercises restricted free agent rights like any other team.
It's very uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit. But I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here. And I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans. So we'll see what comes. Elliot?
For weeks, we've heard that Lexie Hull was done in Indiana. Tearful goodbyes, farewell posts, and rumors that she'd already started packing for another team. Well, turns out that story was a complete fiction built on half quotes and clickbait. Because now we know Caitlin Clark stepped in and made sure Lexie Hull and Sophie Cunningham weren't going anywhere. Multiple sources say Clark went to Fever management and made it clear. These two are off limits.
So let's clarify the situation. Lexie Hull is a restricted free agent, which means Indiana holds the cards to her future. They have the right to match any offer sheet another team presents her. She did not say goodbye. She said she was uncertain, because that is what all players say before the negotiations get underway. But what altered everything was Caitlin Clark's own reaction. She went public on Lexie's post, commenting only 3 words, "So proud of you." That was not a farewell, it was a message. A quiet way of saying, I have your back. And believe me, Indiana's front office noticed. Because when Clark supports someone in public, you can bet that the ownership is paying attention. This is not 2023 any longer. Caitlin Clark is more than just a player. She is a brand valued in the millions. Her opinion carries as much weight as the coach's board. Now let's discuss why this is so important. Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull are not the top scorers on the roster, but they are the ones providing the grit and loyalty, the very things that held this team together when half the lineup was sidelined with injuries. When Clark was injured late in the season, Sophie was the first to step up at press conferences, defending her and maintaining calm in the locker room. When Lexie struggled with her shot, Clark continued passing her the ball until she made one. That is a trust you cannot manufacture.
Really, really good. Actually, I'm just actually really motivated, and I think I'm at a really good spot in my life where like I'm just excited to just like pour into my body, pour into things that I enjoy. And I'm just so excited for this upcoming season because I don't know where I'm going to be. And I just feel like in the W, your golden years, I would say, is anywhere from 28 to 34.
So why would Indiana ever consider losing them? Money. It's as simple as that. The Fever are heading into an off-season with half their bench becoming free agents and a tight salary cap. They cannot pay everybody, but they equally cannot risk upsetting the one player who resurrected their franchise from irrelevance, and therein lies the power of Caitlin Clark. If she wants a player protected, the front office complies. End of story. This is the very same franchise that once based its decisions on analytics and future plans. Now they make choices based on keeping number 22 happy, and to be honest, that is not necessarily a bad strategy. When you possess a generational talent who packs arenas, moves merchandise, and secures national TV games, you build according to her vision, not because she is making demands, but because she's earned that right. We can't forget, the Fever were in shambles when she showed up. They needed more than just a point guard. They needed a leader with a following that could make management care once more. Clark provided that. So when she takes management aside to say, I want Sophie and Lexie back, it is more than a player's request. It is a movement for those who believe she is overreaching. Here is the reality. This occurs all the time. Superstars shape rosters. LeBron James does it. Steph Curry does it. Aja Wilson does it. If you're the one keeping the lights on, you get input on your team's roster. The distinction is that Caitlin Clark is doing this at a younger age and quicker than anyone in the history of the WNBA. Now, this is where the plot thickens. According to several insiders, the Fever had intended to save money this offseason by declining to match Lexie's next contract offer. They anticipated bids for her from other teams viewing her as a defensive specialist from the bench. But after Clark's camp caught wind of that, the entire situation changed. Management suddenly started re-evaluating options. Then the media frenzy began. With rumors of Clark's private meeting with GM Amber Cox, conversations on player chemistry, and talk about her preferred core. A week later, the entire tone changed. The same executives who were prepared to let Lexie leave are now discussing the importance of continuity and rewarding chemistry. The translation: Clark got her way, and it wasn't only about Lexie. Sources indicate Sophie Cunningham, who was facing intense scrutiny for her candid remarks, was also at risk of being cut after the WNBA warning incident. The front office was reportedly set to part ways to prevent distractions, but then Clark arrived. She intervened once more, making it known she wanted Sophie back as well. That's correct. The very player who was being attacked online for her defense of Clark is now being protected by Clark herself. That is the definition of true loyalty, and that loyalty has now forced management's hand. Because let's face it, if the Fever had actually let Sophie go after all she did for Clark, it would have been a public relations catastrophe. The fan base would have viewed it as a betrayal. You cannot release the one player who literally stood up to protect your franchise player amidst on-court chaos. That is no way to foster trust with your supporters. So Clark's decision was not merely clever, it was essential. She rescued the Fever from their own poor judgment and another cycle of negative press. Because let's be honest, this team doesn't need any more bad headlines. It requires stability, consistency, and the type of locker room atmosphere that keeps players focused on winning, not on drama. The chemistry between Clark, Sophie, and Lexie is precisely that. They complement each other. Clark's intensity, Sophie's courage, and Lexie's steady defense. That combination is why they could outperform expectations all season long. So no, this is not about friendship or playing favorite. It is about winning. And Caitlin Clark understands exactly what is required to win. Now, this is where things become even more compelling. What Caitlin Clark just achieved is not simply about saving her teammates. It's a message to the whole WNBA. She essentially declared, if you plan to win with me, you will protect my inner circle. And that declaration resonated powerfully throughout the league. Because do not be mistaken, this was not some minor locker room favor. This was an absolute power play. Clark has reached a point where her voice has more influence than half the boardroom. Every choice Indiana makes from this point on, trade signings, marketing, will be filtered through one question: how will this impact Caitlin? And frankly, that is how it ought to be. You do not handle a generational talent like just another name on the roster. You treat her as the cornerstone. You construct the building around her. And that is what this action demonstrates. Clark is now the designer of Indiana's future. Let's be real. When it first broke that she had stepped in for Sophie and Lexie, half of the internet went crazy. Some called it favoritism. Others claimed she was becoming too controlling. But the thing is, these same critics overlooked the immense turmoil this team endured last season. Half the players were in and out due to injuries. The media was a total circus. The league watched her every move 24/7. She was battered on the court, jeered on the road, yet she continued to show up, sinking threes and carrying her team to the playoffs. One does not endure that kind of a season without having people in your corner. For Clark, those individuals were Sophie and Lexie. Sophie was the first to speak out while others stayed quiet. When pundits made cheap shots, she retorted. When Clark took a hard foul, she was the one prepared to throw elbows. That level of loyalty is never overlooked. And Lexie, she is the glue, unassuming, reliable, and calm when it matters most. The exact type of player every star needs by their side. She handles all the small tasks that don't appear on highlight reels, but help win games. She creates space on the floor, guards different positions, and never once complains about her role. You cannot substitute that kind of chemistry with a random free agent. You cannot trade away trust, and Caitlin Clark understands this better than anyone else. So yes, she leveraged her clout to ensure the team did not tamper with that formula. That isn't ego, that's leadership. And if Indiana is smart, they will get the message. Because let's be truthful, the Fever have a terrible history of maintaining momentum. They'll show progress one year, only to tear it all down the next. Clark's action compels them to end that cycle. By supporting Sophie and Lexie, she is saying stop rebuilding every 6 months, start creating something that will last. And that is precisely what championship organizations do. Now there is an additional element to this that the media has mostly ignored, the timing. This is all occurring just before one of the most unpredictable off-seasons in the history of the WNBA. The collective bargaining agreement is set to expire soon, and everyone is preparing for what could be a difficult negotiation. A possible lockout in 2026 has players feeling anxious. No one wants to be left in limbo without a contract or on a team that does not appreciate them. This is why Clark's loyalty play is so impactful. She is communicating a message to the entire roster. If you are loyal to me, I will go to bat for you. In a league where players can feel expendable, that means something. And for a young superstar to have that influence already, it is historic. Even seasoned pros like Asia Wilson and Breanna Stewart lacked that kind of say-so early in their careers. Clark's influence is not just about her statistics, it is about her sway. When she speaks, people pay attention. When she posts, fans react. When she makes a request, ownership responds. It is amazing to consider, but she is evolving into a type of player the WNBA has never seen before. A superstar with enough fan power to dictate decisions. Now let's consider how this choice affects the rest of the team. Retaining Sophie and Lexie fundamentally alters Indiana's entire direction. It signifies they are choosing chemistry over chaos. It signifies they are heeding the players who make them compelling to watch. It signifies they are finished pretending this is merely a rebuild, because the reality is, Indiana's time is now. Clark is in her prime, Boston is controlling the paint, and the league is finally watching. You do not sacrifice that to save a little cap space. This decision, keeping Sophie and Lexie, is the Fever declaring, we are serious. They are not just retaining role players, they are retaining the team's heartbeat. And indeed, it was Caitlin Clark who made it a reality. So does this make her the de facto GM of the Indiana Fever? Not on paper, perhaps, but in practice? Definitely. Just think about it. Would this have occurred if any other player had asked? Not a chance. If Sophie or Lexie had approached management on their own, they would be gone by now. But with Clark's backing, they are suddenly essential pieces of the culture. That is power. And it is a great reminder of how the WNBA's power structure is shifting rapidly. This is not the old league where players simply stayed silent and followed orders. The new generation, spearheaded by figures like Clark, is transforming how front offices work. They are more than athletes, they are stakeholders. And Caitlin Clark's move just demonstrated to every young player how to use their own leverage without uttering a single dramatic word. She didn't tweet any threats. She didn't post any cryptic quotes. She simply informed her team of her wishes, and she got them. But the fans, they absolutely loved it. The comment sections were filled with people applauding her. Fever fans dubbed her the boss. Others said, finally, someone who understands what this team really needs. Because at a fundamental level, everyone understands she is correct. Keeping Sophie and Lexie is not simply about friendship. It is about creating something substantial. You win titles by surrounding yourself with the right people. Ask any legendary athlete in history. Michael Jordan had Pippen. Kobe had Fisher. Steph has Draymond. Caitlin has Sophie and Lexie. They are more than just teammates. They are extensions of her playing style. They balance her. They shield her. They make the game flow better. And this is why fans are calling it the smartest move of the offseason. Because rather than allowing management to dismantle something that was working, Clark compelled them to secure it. That is not diva behavior. That is winning behavior. And frankly, it is high time the WNBA had a star who knows how to construct a legacy, not just a highlight reel. So, entering the next season, the Fever possess all they require: leadership, chemistry, and a core that genuinely believes in one another, and they owe Caitlin Clark a thank you for it. The league may not be thrilled with the amount of influence she is accumulating, but they cannot dispute the outcomes. Because one thing is certain, the Fever are no longer just a rebuilding project. They are a team being molded by the most powerful voice in women's basketball, and if management was clever enough to listen this time, it could very well be the first genuine step towards a championship. So, what are your thoughts? Did Caitlin Clark just prevent another offseason catastrophe for the Fever? Or is she becoming too powerful for her own good? Leave your opinions below, hit like, and subscribe for more deep dives into the drama behind the WNBA's biggest headlines. Because one thing is for sure, when Caitlin Clark speaks, Indiana listens.